I'm curious, how do Russians feel about things like Syria and Ukraine? Do they care? Are they for it or against it? What's the sentiment in Russia?
Between all conflicts Russia is included in, one have very special meaning for Russia and Russian people. It's Ukraine.
Of course.
Ukraine is it's like Lebanon and Syria. It's the same language. It's 1,000 years of the same statehood history, the same social experience. And finally, 15% of Russians have relatives in Ukraine, and 45% of Ukrainians have relatives in Russia. So it's like this. And at least third part of Ukrainians after 30 years of hardcore propaganda associate themselves with Russia and Russian culture. And between Russians, many have that, let's say, moderate or let's say nationalistic perspective that Ukraine is also part of Russia, or at least Russian world. We can discuss if it is reality or nationalistic narrative, but still. So conflict in Ukraine was very sensitive for people. And conflict in Ukraine started from very clean interruption, imperialistic interruption in Ukrainian politics from the West. Started from events which looks like, smells like, and are governmental coup. Governmental coup made with assistance of far-right extremists, with assistance of oligarchy and US embassy.
Yep.
It doesn't mean that all response of Russian government was ideal, was good, was most clever. Not at all. But that legitimize radical anti-Western rhetoric and partly action. For example, support of pro-Russian militants in eastern Ukraine and accession of Crimea. And that events called in Russia Russian Spring, because after many years it was a huge mass movement in the eastern and southern Ukraine, in Crimea, Donbass, and many other regions of Ukraine, with strong pro-Russian sentiments. And accession of Crimea was extremely popular step. 86% of population supported and still supported. So when Putin administration took Crimea, it really first and I hope the last time, create the real active support. It was indulgentian, indulgentian. Like in Middle Ages, Catholic Church sold documents you can buy, and then your thieves are forgiven.
Yes, okay, right.
So it was indulgence for all former thieves of government, ruling elite. It was patriotic act of justice and so on. The feelings was like this. And then Western interpretation, mainstream interpretation of events were so long away from neutrality, from all journalistic standards, as it never happened since Yugoslavian tragedy. Or probably in Syria it was the same, but it was so obvious. I lived in the West as a political refugee, and all my friends was sitting in Putin prisons for protest movement 2011, 2012.
Mhm.
And as a Swedish journalist, I went to Ukraine, and it was terrible. It was terrible. Fascists just forced people everywhere. The level of criminality under uh, uh, camouflated under Nazi slogans was incredible. It was crime, 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 and crime. And because, as I said, 15% of Russians have relatives there,
Yeah.
and I don't know, 50% have friends and I don't know, something whom they knew personally, it was obvious. And
Yes.
people from eastern and southern Ukraine was very pro-Russian, and they were forced. They were destroyed. Some of them were killed. And Ukrainian, what called in the West democratic revolution, was open dictatorship with level of political repressions, governmental political repressions higher than in Putin Russia. So, and when West totally get in one side without any criticism, and journalists start to boo, 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 repeat the same shit in a way we never see.
It's so
in a way
typical.
of the worst Putin's propagandists.
It's so typical. It's so typical. I mean, it was the same thing with Syria. It's like in Syria, you had fascists and Nazi and neo-Nazis in Ukraine, and still now the U.S. is supporting these people. And in Syria, they were supporting jihadists who wanted to like kill minorities. And again, like the entire Western media was just repeating what the State Department is saying. And it's infuriating when you're actually like have relatives there and friends there who are experiencing this, and their experiences and the reality on the ground is just being totally erased.
I've been in Syria, and if we compare just two scenarios, Bashar al-Assad and all the guys who cut heads for open hair, women with open hair, yes, Bashar al-Assad is better.
Oh yeah, it's like lesser evil. We always talk about lesser evil in the U.S. and everybody understands lesser evil, Trump versus Biden, but like they can't understand.
Bashar al-Assad is not the angel as well. It's very bloody, authoritarian regime.
Of course, absolutely. But the point is
when then you ask about how people think about Syria. People think about Syria. It was never this popular as Ukraine.
Of course, yeah.
Because it looked like Afghanistan in the 80s, you know. It's some country far away from here. And Russian boys should die there for what?